Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD. In today's video we're going to talk about the pros, cons, good, bad from Modern Warfare, and pretty much I'm going to have some Modern Warfare footage in the background. It'll be pretty much just random stuff as I talk through these different things. Obviously with this type of video there's going to be a ton of good things and there's going to be a handful of bad things. Overall, I think the general consensus is there's pretty much one or two issues with the game that are major issues that would actually stop people from buying the game, and then there's certain issues that people can I'll look over it, not a big deal. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was graphics. Graphically, this game is one of the best looking graphically that we've ever seen, hands down, for Call of Duty. It's competing with Battlefield in terms of graphics, and I think they've even taken a couple extra steps graphically that make it just stand out head and shoulders above anyone that is making video games on console as a first-person shooter. And that goes with the different animations with the weapons, and they've also kind of wrapped around and gave you great audio cues, so the weapons sound real. They went through the different layering when we were there at the studio, and they went through the different layering, and they showed us specifically, okay, here's how we've developed the layers of the audio. Basically, when you fire the weapon, the different mechanics that go along with firing the weapon, the echo, the reverberation, there was a lot that went into it, and it felt real. The downside with the audio is because the emphasis is so much put on the weapons, the audio is loud the way that real weapons are. It becomes very difficult to hear footsteps as you're playing the game. The other part that I really like is the map design. For a while, Call of Duty's had this 3-lane map design, and a while ago, back in the older Call of Duties, we didn't really have much of a 3-lane map. We did have maps that kind of fit that formula, but for the most part, they were kind of just like different power positions, and you can kind of maneuver around the map, and you ideally want to get in those power positions so you control the flow of the map, go on long streaks, call those streaks in, and you get tons of kills. Kind of going around, oh, is that a door? Is that a walkway? Is that the edge of the map? Is that not? Is this the way to go? So there's a lot of figuring out to do, but the maps as a whole looked great. They added new door mechanic, which I'm not really a huge fan of, but it does add a different dynamic to the gameplay. Create a class has completely changed. Again, we've kind of gone like an old school with the new school, and basically all the weapons in the gunsmith, you're able to equip 5 attachments and or a weapon perk, and some weapons may be better without certain attachments, some better with. It just depends on what your preferences are. And the downside, and this is the first time ever in Call of Duty where you're actually going to be able to equip 5 attachments, and the weapon can be worse based on your play style than if you had no attachments. For example, when you equip extended mags, it actually makes the gun way more, which is real. Like obviously, if you have a gun with 20 bullets versus 30, the 30 bullets is gonna be heavier. That just makes sense, common sense in real world. But what happens in Call of Duty, normally you just equip extended mags, no punishment, you get extra ammo. Within Modern Warfare, they've added some more realism to it, so the ammo's gonna weigh more, gun's gonna weigh more. So at the end of the day, you're going to be a little bit slower because you're carrying something that's heavier. And that's realistic, and we'll kind of see how that plays out. It's going to make it very tricky, but it does add a lot of variety, especially with some of these attachments being able to swap out and actually modify the gun by changing the caliber. You can make an SMG into a rifle to SMG, and then different modifications along those lines. So this one, it's kind of a really good concept. I think the plus and minus can make it very confusing, especially for a new user, considering there's like 40 to 60 attachments per weapon, which can get kind of out of hand. So you're gonna have a primary, a secondary, and then you're gonna have one of each perk from each slot, whether it's perk 1, perk 2, or perk 3, you're gonna have one of each. You're gonna have a lethal, and then you're gonna have a tactical. So also the way they've done the operators, obviously we've called them specialists in the past. They look unique, but at the end of the day, they're just cosmetic. We're not seeing anything special here. You could be a guy, a girl, different ethnicities or whatever, and it doesn't really matter. It's just going to change the way the character looks depending on what faction you're within. But beyond that, there's no difference. You're going to have a similar character model, similar hitbox. Pretty much everything's going to align. So it's just cosmetic for the sake of cosmetics. It's like equipping a camo to a gun. It doesn't really change the gun, just makes it look different. Modes, there was a ton of modes. They had 2v2 mode, 6v6, 10v10, 20v20. And here's the part where I'm saying that they've made a step in the right direction, because you do get that variety. Some people like that competitive Call of Duty. That 2v2 is going to fill that niche. Once comp rule set comes out, whether it's 4v4, 5v5, 6v6, which would be unheard of, they're going to have that rule set, and we're going to see how that plays. So you're going to have that dynamic for people who do game battles and they play competitively. Then you have 6v6 regular pubs, 10v10 regular pubs, and then, which is kind of like ground war that we've ever had in Call of Duty. We've had that multiple times, 10v10 or 9v9 type of playlist. And then within the 20v20, it's going to cater and appeal to those Battlefield users. Battlefield players love that extra action, a lot of dynamic things going on, vehicles. There's a lot of different chaos in that type of mode. And I think if you don't like Battlefield, you're probably not going to like that mode. You might, it's worth trying. But if you are a Battlefield fan, it's going to kind of pull you closer to Call of Duty, especially with the graphics. It's going to look very similar. So it's kind of like going to put the dagger, the nail, the coffin, whatever you want to call it, into Battlefield, which I think is a good move for Call of Duty. We'll see if they step up their game to compete. So that's my thoughts on that. Next thing that I'm really hyped about is crossplay. It seems like it's going to work input based. So if you have a controller, you're playing with controller players. If you have a keyboard and mouse, you're going to play with keyboard and mouse. But from our knowledge that has been given to us, pretty much if you have a controller, playing on a controller, regardless of the device, you will be going up against controller players. Same thing, keyboard and mouse. Regardless if you're on a console or a PC, you're going to have access to play against lobbies full of keyboard and mouse, and it's not going to be mixed. Obviously, if you have your friends list and you mix it yourself, mixed lobbies are bound to happen. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. I think it's moving in the right direction. We'll see how the exclusivity deal goes through. But overall, good move. Recoil. So recoil in this game is insane. I feel like it's one of the like there's more recoil in this game than I've ever had in Call of Duty, and I can say that from playing Call of Duty for quite a while. I started Call of Duty back in CoD 4 Modern Warfare, and I played the games, and I've played every year since. And I've even done throwback videos where I go back and play those games or do the evolution of rifles or whatever the case is. So I've gone back recently and played those games. And literally, if you go and play Black Ops 2, almost none of the weapons have recoil and the time to kill is insane. This game, ton of recoil and the time to kill is pretty good. It's not overly fast, like you die in one shot all the time. No, most of the weapons are going to be like 3 and 4 shot kills, I believe, based off the experience with it. Obviously, if you use a pistol, marksman rifle, sniper, there's going to be different variables there. But for the meta reg guns, you're going to see 3 to 4 shots kill normally, which is pretty fast for COD, but not the fastest we've seen in Call of Duty. So the main reason I think increased recoil is a good thing is because when I measure if something's good for the game, I always measure it against skill gap. And if you measure things against skill gap, that's going to kind of determine your thought process of what you think improves the game or worsens it. So for example, increased recoil is going to make it harder to control the recoil of the weapons. That means higher skilled players will have the advantage. Lower skilled players will have to learn how to control their weapon with the predictive recoil. That means they have to improve to increase their skill at controlling that recoil management, which in my head means that's a good thing. Sometimes you can make the skill gap so large, it's hard for the people learning the game to catch up. And I think they have the right amount of balance with this particular amount of skill gap change where the recoil is tough to manage. Good players will take advantage in the beginning. And if you want to improve, you can improve and become a better player. It's not so insane that pretty much no one can have it except for the top 1%. No, it's not to that extreme. Pretty much you can manage a controller, you can manage keyboard and mouse, you're gonna be fine managing the recoil. You're just gonna have to get better at dealing with the higher recoil, especially at longer ranges. Perks. I went through all the perks. Pretty much most of the perks aren't really of value. I mean, a lot of the perks are reused or renamed from the past. Going through all of them, I went through them in my previous video where I kind of talked about the different perks in the game. I don't really think they add a ton of value to the game. As far as ghosts being very strong, especially if people call UAV, you're not gonna be able to find them, but at least you'll have a mini-map and stuff like that. Hardline, that's always been in COD. I think that's a familiar perk. Kill chain. A scavenger. I mean, there's a lot of these different perks that we've already seen, and I don't really think any of them are overpowered. And based off the version we played, there weren't pro versions, so it wasn't like you level it up and it becomes a better perk. It just didn't happen that way. The perk we had was the perk we got. Killstreaks. Personally, I am a fan of killstreaks. I think point streak system is slightly better because there's a couple different things you can do. If you can make it so that 3 assists equal 1 kill. You can make it so that if you capture an objective, you actually get half a point or a point. And you just balance it based off the mode. Obviously, in certain game modes, you can get way more points, so maybe you stack it up that way. Obviously, in kill confirmed, maybe it would be crazy if you gave 1 point for a tag and 1 point for a kill. It was like basically 2 points for every kill. You'd run, get a tag. I'm not a fan of that. I think if maybe you get a quarter point, maybe for every 4 tags, you get 1 point. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. They've gone with kill streaks, and that's probably how they're going to keep it based off how they decided to balance the game. They've gone for a more old school approach. The main downside, in my opinion, was recently announced was that kill streaks cannot be cycled. In this game, you don't have a mini-map. We're not going to have a mini-map. And no matter what mode you play, you're not going to have a mini-map. The only way you get a mini-map is when you combine that with some type of UAV. Personal UAV, you're going to get a mini-map for yourself. UAV, you're going to get a map for you and all of your teammates, and vice versa. If they get a UAV, you're going to see it as well. Advanced UAV is going to light up the mini-map, make all the enemy players a little triangle so you can see the directional information, and that one sweeps. So it's not the best advanced UAV we've ever had, but it is an advanced UAV. I know we've been asking for that for like 2 different years now. We didn't have it in World War II, and we definitely did not have it in Black Ops 4. So it's gonna be a nice change. It's gonna be a great way to counter campers, especially since that's gonna counter ghosts. The problem I have with the kill streak cycling is a couple different things. One is, let's say I actually want to go on a streak. In previous Call of Duties, if I wanted to go for a non-lethal streak, I wanted to go for a nuclear, all I would need to do is run UAV, counter, advanced. Obviously in this game, when I first heard no mini-map, I'm like, okay, that's kind of crappy, but I can deal with it. Mini-map gives you a ton of information, but the main thing I want to focus on was, okay, so I'm going for this nuclear, I'm going to need the personal UAV, so it gives me a little bit of mini-map, a little bit of awareness. Then I get a UAV, and then I'm going to need to get about 5 or 6 more kills, and then I'm going to get up to an advanced. And the advanced will typically get you about 3, 4, 5 kills, depending on the size of the map, how many players, a lot of variables, but normally you're going to get about 4 or 5 kills with an advanced UAV, knowing where enemies are. And then, pretty much, that'll get you your personal again, and then you'll get a UAV, and then that'll change you to the advanced. And by the time you've gotten your advanced twice, you're right at around 24 to 25 kills, and you've gotten your nuclear. If you're really close to nuclear, you're going to call that advance in, and then you're going to be able to get the nuclear, which is typically at 25 kills. You get a deatomizer, Moab, whatever the case is, you're going to get a 25 kill streak for a tactical nuke. We don't know how many kills it is. We don't know if it's only gun kills, gun streak kills with the kill train perk. We don't know the details of the nuke. All we know is from the trailer that there is a nuke that can hit the map if you get a certain number of kills or streak or whatever the case is. That's all we know. But they've removed the opportunity to do that. So now what's going to end up happening is if I'm trying to go for a nuclear and I'm playing solo, whether it's free for all, 6v6, 10v10, I'm playing solo. What's going to happen is I have to call on my personal at 3 kills. Then I'm going to call on my regular UAV at 5. So that 3 kill streak will maybe get me to like 7 kills. I'm going to call on the UAV. That's going to get me like to 10, 12 kills. That's going to give me an advance, and I'm probably going to get 5 kills on top of that, and that's going to bring me up to 17 kills. So you guys are tracking so far. Now what's going to happen is I don't have any minimap, and I have to get 8 kills without a minimap. Versus before, I needed 3 to get the personal to try to cycle it through. But now I'm not going to have that opportunity. Pretty much what's going to happen is I'm going to get the streak. So now that I'm only 8 off a streak, off my nuclear, if it's 25, let's say if it's going to be up to 30, then I got to get 12 more kills. So either way, regardless if I need 7 kills or 12 kills, pretty much it's going to come down to luck of one of my teammates that is random going to call in a UAV or an advance, which is very unlikely. I could play several matches in previous Call of Duties and no one calls in a UAV on my team. And I'm able to cycle the streak, so at least I've been able to manage that. Then the other part of it is that, or I just have to camp hard, like super hard, harder than I've ever camped in my life to get this streak, because if I walk around the map, the enemy team could have a UAV. If I don't have ghost on, I'm going to be marked easy. And then they're going to come kill me. Super easy. So you put yourself in a very bad position, especially since you're not able to cycle streaks and in combination with the minimap. So I think these two things, it's got to be one or the other. It cannot be both. We can't not have both. I think if we're going to have no minimap, let us cycle those UAVs. I don't care how many I got to get. I'm just going to put on personal UAV, 3 kill streak, personal UAV, 3 kill streak, personal UAV, 3 kill streak. Even if I'm playing self, that's how I want to cycle my streaks, because I don't have a mini-map. Well, okay, cool. Well, then they got to give us a mini-map if they're going to go this route, because pretty much what's going to happen is if I want to go the personal UAV, whatever, personal UAV is going to last 30 seconds or so. UAV is going to last 30 seconds. Advanced is going to last 30 seconds. So if the match, it takes me 5-6 minutes to get a nuke. It's a little bit slower nuke. It's going to be a slower paced game. 6 minutes to get the nuke. I'm only going to have a mini-map on my screen for 1.5 minutes. So 75% of my streak is going to have to be done without a mini-map. Which some people are like, oh, well, I do that all the time in hardcore. But in hardcore, you cycle streaks, you get UAVs. So we'll see how this plays out. I know that we're going to get like a form of team link so we can see our teammates through objects and stuff like that. That's going to help with map awareness. And I was kind of on board with that. I'm like, okay, cool. I really enjoy the mini-map because the mini-map, it isn't a crutch. It's a useful tool. Obviously, you're taking it away. It lowers skill gap. Does that lower or increase the skill gap? In my opinion, it lowers the skill gap. So they did a plus with the recoil in increasing the skill gap. But then they're going to go out of their way and lower the skill gap by making it so you can't cycle streaks. So now pretty much I'm capped on my kill potential because I'm able to get streaks and somebody else isn't. And then on top of that, now we're going to remove the mini-map. Mini-map is another tool that better players use. People think you just chase the red dots. I've gone through videos where I explain you can get your top tier streaks just using the mini-map, no UAVs. So literally it's going to tell you where the spawns are, how to position yourself based off line of sights from your teammate. There's so much you can go into. I could probably do an entire video on why the mini-map needs to stay in Call of Duty, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just giving my input of why I think it's valuable, and I rate things based off skill gap. Personally, that's how I see it, based off skill gap. The other part of the no mini-map is it's going to require me and force me to play with teammates, because if I want to actually get streaks, I'm gonna need to call a UAV for my teammate so he can get a UAV, and then once he calls in a UAV, now I have a UAV again, which gives me a mini map, and then that's gonna allow me to get an advance, and then I'm gonna get an advance for him, and he's gonna get it for me, and it's gonna cycle back and forth. 3 teammates, we're gonna need it so that basically we get like 6 minutes of UAV time, right? If we have 4 teammates, we each call our streaks in, we're gonna have about, you know, 5-6 minutes of UAV time, and all of us are gonna get nukes. Well, I don't want to have to do that, but that's what they want me to do. I think the tips and tricks this year are gonna be boring. Like, camp in this room until you get a 3 streak so you can get your personal UAV, and then try to ride it out as long as you can, get that UAV, ride it out as long as you can, get the advance, ride it out as long as you can, and then get the nuke. But camp. I've never recommended people camp. I've recommended people slow down, hold a lane, whatever the case is, but to literally verbalize that and tell somebody to camp is how you get better at COD. And the last thing I'll touch on, which is kind of a minor thing, is actually respawn delay. I think respawn delay is fine in capture the flag, but if you're gonna put respawn delay in TDM, it just slows down the pace of the game, and it even devalues streaks that much further, because if I only get my streaks once and you're gonna stop me from killing people who are spawning in, then basically score streaks, kill streaks, whatever, got weaker. And that's pretty much how it goes. I know, I mean, I had some pros in here. I'm gonna tell you, honestly, the game is like an 8 out of 10 right now for me. I would play it every single day, despite the glaring issue, in my opinion, which is the combination of mini-map and not being able to cycle streaks. Give me one or the other. Don't take away both. Or give me both. Cool. Like, either way, I'm happy as long as you don't take away both. And I think that's the issue a lot of people are kind of debating, but I'm going to hit that on the head is go ahead and take one, but do not take both. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. I know it was a little different at the end. If you guys made it to this point, you probably enjoyed what I had to say. Feel free to leave your comments down in the comment section below. Appreciate all the support. If you do want to subscribe so you can stay up to date, find your way back, make sure you hit the red subscribe button with notifications on. See you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.